What you doing? I'm AC, and this is Alcohol Anime! For this episode of Alcohol Anime, I am going to be talking about the new Netflix anime film, Child of Kamiari Month. Uh, but before I get into all the details and all that kind of stuff, which I guess I have plenty of course I have to start with the first part of my podcast that I always do, talking about the alcohol, of course. Which this one I don't have a lot of info for. Um, I knew nothing about this film. I mean, of course, it's pretty much brand new, but there's also nothing really to let me know what it is. Like, it's kind of a vague. Okay, when reading the description of it when I first found it on Netflix, first I was like, oh, cool. I have a film I can watch that's new and I can do for my alcohol anime podcast. However, the description was kind of vague, or I thought so at the time. Um, all it really tells me is a year after losing her mother, a young girl learns that she must journey across Japan to the annual gathering of gods in the sacred land of Izumo. I was like, okay, so it's some kind of adventure esque film. The story, I mean, the story, vague, very simple sounding. I was like, what kind of alcohol am I going to get? It's like, I don't know. That's not enough information. It's not like this is a film that is already part of another franchise that would give me a hint. And I was like, okay, well, let's look at the poster. What can I pull from here? Girl, rabbit, dragon, a couple other people, some weird looking guy. I don't know. Still doesn't give me anything. And like, I had no idea what this was going into it. So I almost didn't even do it, mainly because I couldn't think of an alcohol. And I don't know. I was just drawing a blank, and that's kind of why it took me so long to do it. It's been out for not that long, but a little bit. I could have done it sooner, but I decided I was just going to go basic. At first, I was like, I'm just going to get some sake, whatever. Like, I haven't had sake in a while. I was feeling it. I was like, might as well just do it. But then remembered. I was like, hey, wait. About I try to find something people would drink for sad occasions. And I realized that was probably not the most respectful or good idea to do. But I only realized that after not being able to find anything, anyways. So I went back to the sake idea, but then I was like, oh wait, again, another idea. Um, there was like plum wine or plum sake or whatever that I've never had before. It's like that'd be kind of adventurous on my part, really stretching it here. And I was like, okay, sure, let's go for it. There was other things I could have gone for. There was soju, or sake, or this plum wine, plum sake, which I remembered is called Umeshu, which ume is different than plum. So what I ended up going with was ume. I went to the store, I looked at all of them. Actually, I didn't see any soju at the one I went to, but there's definitely plenty of sake and choya, and there's only one bottle that actually said Umeshu on it, so I went with this one. Then after I bought it, and like on my drive home, I was like, fuck, I actually have had this before. I don't know why it clicked to me right then. Yeah, I got this big old bottle of it, and I remembered I've actually had a little bottle of it. It had like one little ume in it. It's just a little bitty bottle, like I don't know what to compare it to. It's bigger than one of those like shot samplers you would get for other liquors, but a decent sized little drink. I don't know if you've seen like those little sake bottles, itty bitty ones that like a little 1 cup. But it was kind of like that, but for this. And I got it, I was like, ah, man. Well, there goes the excitement and the adventurous aspect for this I thought I was going to do. I also remembered, like, the ume, they're fine. Of course, they're soaking in alcohol. and like they're okay, but they weren't like super great. Something I would plan on eating or drinking all the time. And normally I avoid any kind of alcohol that has anything in the bottom of it that you would eat, mainly because for some reason, I just don't usually like them. Even though this wasn't too bad, I do remember I didn't like the fact that there was a pit in it. I don't like pit things. So the one straw I had to grasp for trying to figure out an alcohol for this didn't work out. Also, I mean, I didn't look anything into the film before I watched it, but I did try to see if Kamiari meant anything. I know Kami means God. I didn't know what Ari meant, but a quick Google search didn't really tell me anything either. So I was just like, okay. So went really lazy with trying to figure out any kind of alcohol for this one. I couldn't even think of anything to try to even guess for a mixed drink of some sorts. I think I tried thinking of like dragon stuff, but then I was like, nah, that's kind of basic. And even though the dragon seems to be significant on the poster of it, I don't know if it matters that much. Now, though, after watching it, I could have some kind of decent idea for an alcohol I could have done with this. But of course, like, I drank while I watch, and then of course drink more while I do the podcast, like so. But I mean, it's too late to pick alcohol after I watch it. So I'm just gonna stick with my choya Umeshu. Also, I'm not drinking it in a glass because I don't know. I want to drink it out of my sake glasses. I figure it'll work good enough. But I don't know where it went. I don't know where any of them went. So I could have got another different glass, but I didn't want to do that either. So drinking straight out of the bottle for this one too. It's a nice bottle though. Ooh, and it ended up being cheaper than it actually was displayed as. Yeah, that's good too. It's sweeter than I thought. I don't know why I thought it was going. I don't know why I thought it was going to taste. I guess closer to sake, but it's a lot sweeter and fruitier than I thought. It's almost is like juice, but I mean umeshu made from ume and sugar pretty much. So yeah, I don't know. It just threw me off, but it is really good. Almost like juice. It's 14.6%. So I mean, it's decently strong. It's about the same strength as sake. Yeah, it even says it's produced and bottled in Japan, just imported by some place in California. Probably something I would get again. It wasn't expensive either, and sometimes they are. Really, it's really fruity. It almost really is just like fruit juice. Like I can taste it still on my lips and my mustache, which is a little bit annoying. But yeah, a little lazy with the alcohol presentation, I guess. Still really good, but also being on the same topic of alcohol before I forget about this and try to come back later because that's normally what I do. I was also a little bit drunk before watching this because I was filming a short for the previous episode because I finally got around to doing that. And then I got too drunk off of doing that and it caught me off guard. I mean, I didn't really eat much today, but then I was like, oh no, I'm going to be too drunk to pay attention. And it's like, I know the point is to get drunk, and I was like, oh, I might have to reschedule. I was like, wait, no, the point is to be drunk. I was like, this is good. But then I was like, oh no, what if I can't pay attention, or what if I get way too drunk? It's just me this time again. I was like, what if people watch and they just can't follow along? I'm just a mess. But eventually I went with him. I was like, I'll just eat. But then I ate too much and I started feeling not as great because of the food, and then I got really sleepy. And right before I was about to watch the movie, I was like, oh no. It's like I don't know what to do. I don't want to postpone this. I want to do it now. Oh no. And then I started watching the movie and it turned out fine. Like I mean, I still felt full. I even still feel full now. um, took the drunkenness away, but then it just replaced it with sleepiness. So we'll see how it's going to turn out. And once I keep drinking throughout the podcast, that is one thing though. Doing these by myself, it's harder to keep the conversation going and take a drink. So it's going to leave me with a lot of editing out silences, I guess. So if you hear any silence in this, I got lazy with editing. And if you hear this, it means I got lazy with editing. Okay. That's enough about alcohol talk because there wasn't much to talk about in the first place. So, let's actually talk a bit about the film. Let's talk about how this film came to be. Because I feel like I don't talk about that enough, and when I do, it's usually at some random point. But I'm going to remember to do it now. I do take notes to this while I'm watching just to make sure I have talking points and don't get too random and off topic and all that stuff. But then my notes, these are probably the worst written notes I've ever seen. I can barely read most of it, and the fact that I've just been drinking makes it even harder. So that's going to be fun. But yeah, so this film originally came out in Japan in October 8th, 2021. So it is actually pretty new, even by Japan standards. I mean, that's only 3-4 months ago, about 4 months ago, a little over 4. And then it came into US Netflix on February 8th, 2022. That's very recent. That's a couple weeks ago. I could have done this a week earlier, then I didn't. It's just I suddenly found it in my my Netflix list and then it's like, how long have I had this on there? It's like I must have planned to watch this at some point. Then I realized, oh, this just got added to it. Not just something I forgot about. So hey, good job past me scouting out films for me to watch and add them to my list. That way, future me, which is now present me, or I guess technically slightly past me, was able to find this and watch it and do it for my podcast. So yeah, finally a new film for me to watch. Not something anybody I talked to probably cares about to watch, so I did watch it alone, and I'm doing it live on my Twitch alone. But yeah, it was an okay film. It's not something I would, if I would have watched it first, it's not something I've been like, hey, let's watch this movie together for my podcast. I was like, you love it. It would be like, hey, self, we might as well do a podcast on this. Let's not tell anyone to watch it with us. And if they happen to watch it already, then they can come and join us. Yeah, that's a plan. Yeah, it's not a bad film. Definitely not one of my favorites. Some of the other ones, I feel like I would, for the most part, been talking a lot more shit about the things I'm watching and consuming all that stuff than I used to. I try to stay pretty positive. And I will say overall, this doesn't have really anything that negative in it for me to shit on. There's still, of course, a little bit of it that I can. But for the most part, it's a pretty wholesome, heartfelt movie. There's a little bit of emotion. Some of it's cheesy, but not overly cheesy, not annoyingly cheesy. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. Sometimes they just try to make it. They really try to soak in the, like, sadness and just take it too much, too far. This doesn't do that. It's like there's a little sorrow in it, a little heartbreak, but it's not like they dwell on it too long and too deep. Honestly, at some points, rare example, they might not do it enough justice. Like they do it a little bit, but then it's like it's kind of resolved too much. So it's not like they're doing it constantly throughout, but they do it just a little bit of times, and then those times still aren't enough, and there's not really a huge moment. There is a big moment, not a huge one, a huge climactic one, but there is, there's good moments in it. But overall, I will say pretty chill. Nothing too exciting. There are a few nice animated moments, and like they're pretty big moments, animation wise. Story wise, nothing huge though. Nothing that feels like it was that significant. If everything that happens in this always feels like it does it just so the next thing would be bigger, but then it's not really. And it takes a little bit for another kind of big thing that you think would lead to something bigger. Okay. So, I don't know. I just like it's overall an okay movie. And a positive leaning more positively, but it's an okay movie. Would I recommend it? As like it's a great movie? I'll be like, hey, here's a movie. It's about let me tell you what it's about. It's about this girl named Kana Hayama who lost her mom. It's been about a year. They used to like to run together, and she died though, and now she's kind of hesitant to run. Anyways, she ends up finding out her mom was some kind of god of foot races, which is ridiculous. I want to talk a bit about that separately in a second. And she had a task of collecting this like food called what the fuck, what do they call it? This is why my notes suck. I can't read anything. A chiso. She has to bring some chiso. So yeah, she's supposed to be the new Itadin, descendant of gods that's going to replace her mom to bring all this chiso to this big feast of the gods that do some kind of matchmaking thing, which also is weird and doesn't make sense. That we'll get into later. So yeah, and she stops time. She goes on this little journey to deliver all this chiso food from these different shrines to this feast, so that they can do their matchmaking thing. And that's all it kind of is. I mean, there's a little bit more, but that's the basic thing. A girl goes on a little adventure to deliver God's food. She's, I don't know, she's like just if Uber Eats or DoorDash, any of those food delivery services just had to go on foot, but could stop time. And yeah, it's not like a grand adventure. It's just like it's as mediocre of an adventure as it can kind of get. Like the task itself, like deliver this food, and it seems like something that would be, I don't know, for a kid, I guess. But I don't know. It's weird. It's like it's nothing significant, but it's like a one-off kind of little film that you could show a kid. Just something kind of simple and pretty that they can look at, and the kid can be like, "Ooh, I want to go run too." It might just be like, I don't want to say propaganda. It's just kind of convincing kids like, if you go run, you might go and meet some cool-looking god things. That's pretty much the moral of the story I got from it. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all it. I feel like it really does. Whew. But to get into like an actual more in-depth summary. So yeah. Alright. It's been a year since her mom died. She's still tore up about it. Like I said, a little bit of the emotional stuff, and that's where a lot of the story is coming from. Is her missing her mom and not knowing or thinking she doesn't want to run anymore because of it, because they used to run together, and now she's been tasked with replacing her mom and literally just running through Japan. I don't know how big of an area it is, but running through Japan, shrine by shrine, within a long time, really, the way they describe it, to deliver all this stuff. So yeah, she's like, I don't know if I really want to run. And then it's like, okay, well, you have to for the gods. And it's like, oof, I guess you're not getting all this, even though she kind of says she doesn't want to. But then she does it anyways, because she thinks if she's able to do this, she'll be able to see her mom again. Okay. But it's an interesting aspect. She was supposed to do this marathon, and she almost comes in third, but then stops right before the finish. Her dad tries to comfort her. She bees a bitch to him, or a little brat. Runs away, goes to a shrine, and then this is where the whole quest starts. Puts on a little amulet bracelet thing that her mom had, and then opens up this whole supernatural world. Sees this bull god, some green-haired demon boy named Yasha, and then eventually, what she thought was one of her pet rabbits from earlier turns out to be a white rabbit named Shiro. Got real creative with the naming there. I don't even know if it's actual whatever this demon or not demon deity helper, because I don't think the deity itself was a rabbit. I think it was just assuming the form of a rabbit that she knew of. So I don't know if Shiro was even its real name. But yeah, real creative with name of White Rabbit Shiro. Good job. Anyways, so part of her like power she gets from being the daughter of someone who was a descendant from the gods, being the next Eden, she can stop time. And this is where like they try to explain it a little bit, but obviously it's just a plot point where it's not even stopping time. Time's just really slow. It's like there was a time stoppers or watch stoppers, time watchers. I don't know, something like that. Some kind of movie where some kids got watches that could stop time. Pretty much the same concept as that. Everything's just really slow because you're just moving so fast that nobody can really see you. Which one just seems to suck. Because according to them, it will take about 1 week to them is like an hour in real life time. Which makes you realize just how long she's actually in this like slow time space, because the feast, I'm pretty sure they said, was to start at 7. They start this little journey just before or just after 12. If I looked at the clock right, I may have looked at the clock, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. That's like over 6 hours. That's a month and a half of her being in this realm where she still has to sleep, because it still feels like about 6 weeks to her. So she's still having to sleep and eat and all this stuff. But then they don't really address it again. Like, how much time is really passing? They do kind of. It's like, hey, it's been a day or an hour in the real world or something like that. And it's like, okay. I mean, not really helpful, I guess. You need to know what time it is. And, like, they're always under pressure of time, but they never really talk about the fact that this is like a month and a half long journey they're about to go on in nothing. And she's supposed to run the whole way. So I must have looked at the clock wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said 7 and it was just after 12. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I did. That's the only thing I can think of. Maybe I got the hands mixed up. That'll be stupid of me to see, because it was the analog clock. No, that's what we call it, right? With the hands. And maybe I did just mix the hands up. It was really like 5 or 4 or 3 or something. Still a long time. Even if it was a week, it's still a long time. Man, that's a long. And she's like a little girl. She was in 4th grade, 6th grade, something like that. Yeah, small child. So big task for her. And it doesn't help that along the way, even though Shiro, the little rabbit, is helping her, the little green-haired demon boy Yasha, not helping her. Yasha's actually a demon whose family were also just fast runners, and became like rivals to the Eden. But then, because her mom was real fast, but she's so slow. And then eventually he's like, he makes a bet or something with her and is like, hey, we're going to race. If you win, or if I win, I get the little container that has all the chiso, the god's food in it. And they race, and it's the slowest foot race I've ever seen. It's like if someone was like kind of jogging, and they were racing against someone who was walking but trying to look like they were walking fast. She's so slow, and but then she's like, "Oh, you're just really fast," and like you have to believe it, like, because these kids were running a marathon. Which one? They were running a race. She came in third out of all these kids, so she's like somewhat fast for her, but she's still a kid. Kids are slow, even if they think they're fast. But going back to the marathon thing, it was not a marathon. I don't know why they were calling it a marathon. Maybe they call it a marathon just for fun and to convince these kids that they're actually doing something cool. It wasn't a marathon. It was like a mile, maybe a 5K at most. There's no way it was any more than a 5K though. I'm pretty sure it was only like a mile, because that happens during the day. Kids are just like, well, 5K isn't really that long, but so at my event, they did have to like run out into the city or town a little bit, so it's not like the whole thing was in school grounds. So I'll say a 5K at most, maybe a mile, because imagining little kids running even a 5K is a lot. I won't say it was a mile. It was just a little race, a little foot race. Definitely not a marathon though. Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. There's no way. I don't know. Also, just a god of foot race. I don't know if any of this is based off real Japanese mythology or anything like that. If it is, I'm sorry, but a god of foot racing. I don't know. It's not, that's where it just feels really childish. It's like there's just this little silly, not silly. I'm sorry if this is real mythology. I tried looking into it a little bit. I didn't take a whole lot of time though, so I really shouldn't talk on it. But God of Foot Race, that's a little humorous, a little childish. But so I'm going to assume the target audience for this was for much younger than me. But hey, if that's true, that younger audience can't drink and watch it, can't drink alcohol and watch it. They be drinking their milk, or water, or sports drinks. I might have to have a second round later in the end to talk about what my alcohol choices were. I'll get to that later. That'll be my like alcohol redemption talk in the end. So yeah, she loses this foot race horribly. Like it's so bad. Like she's not fast at all, and she's been running this whole time. But also it's like, okay, I guess she is kind of fast. And I'm just going to say Yasha actually is really fast. And it just made her look slow. But anyways, he's kind of like, okay, we're going to go to gods and go and race again in front of them. That way I can show them I'm better than you. But then, he pretty much just ends up tagging along. Becomes friends. Like what happens in everything you would see. So there's really all the drama there. Like, he knew her mom too, and that was kind of a little bit of a drama point. And he knows how fast she was compared to her daughter. But overall, they become friends pretty easily. Like, maybe a little playful bitterness among them. She doesn't really care. It's more on him. But he joins them. They keep going, doing shrine stuff. They come to another shrine where there's this dragon god. And he doesn't think the girl's worthy, so he puts her to a test to run across these floating platforms. But then Yasha sees this as another chance for him to prove himself, so then they both are kind of racing along these platforms. He almost falls, she saves him, but then she falls and the dragon saves her. And he's like, why are you really wanting to go do this? He's like, I want to see my mom. And he's like, I never saw my parents either. It's like, shut the fuck. Okay, I guess. It's like, he's like, I'm bound to be the god of these lands. I've never seen my parents, so I understand how you feel. It's like, okay, I feel like you're really just pulling it out of nowhere, but I mean, I'm sure it's true. And I did, but I guess I never really thought about where our dragon god's parents were. But okay, I guess that's all it takes to convince him, even though she failed your test. But then she failed it by saving him, and that's all that really counts. And I knew, of course, that's what was going to happen. This part actually is kind of like foreshadowed a little bit in the beginning, because whenever she first has time stopped and she starts taking off, which one, very slow start. It takes him forever to actually get anywhere, but that's because she's helping people along the way, kind of. She sees her dad that was trying to chase after her. She puts a little towel, like a sweat towel, around his neck to try to protect him from the rain from something. I don't know what that little towel's going to do. He's also like right outside the house, so he doesn't really need. He'll make it there fine. I don't know. And then she like sees a cat about to get hit by a car and moves the cat. So it was foreshadowed that she was going to eventually help and save Yasha from something at some point. But yeah, then it just goes on from there. They finish collecting all the chiso from the gods. Then where the actual what should have been the actual big antagonist, there's finally kind of pops up a little bit, but it was so anticlimactic though. This whole time, uh, Kana has had this like shadowy mist trying to envelop her, following her, and like at least Shira knew something was following, something was up. They both kind of sensed something was up, but then it's finally decides to take her over at this point. And well, not really take her over. It decides to trick her. It becomes her mom, Yayoi, and just pretty much convinces her that she doesn't need to do this. She doesn't have to do this. And it's because kind of get revealed to the other two that the reason she really wants to see her mom is to tell her that she doesn't actually like running, and she just wanted to tell her mom to her face that she wanted to quit. And then the shadow finally has the feelings it needs to try and manipulate her. And it starts to work a little bit, but it resolves real quick because then Shiro and Yasha show up, and Yasha's just like, that's not your mom, your mom wouldn't do that. And she's like, oh yeah, you're right. And that's it. This is supposed to be the big, climactic, like, this is the antagonist. This is where things are going to get really big, really flashy, really deep. And then it's just over. And it doesn't. That's it. That's all it does. There's nothing else. But it was enough to where she was like, well, even if I knew it was fake, it was still my mom, and I still wanted to see her, blah, 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 and I don't want to do this anymore. And she rips the bracelet off so she can't see Shiro Yasha anymore. And then she's just left as the storm approaches, which the storm doesn't really do that much either. There's this big storm, and it's raining a lot, and then it doesn't really play a huge part either, besides the fact that it's raining. And they did this little rain just to show that, hey, look, big raindrops just floating in the air, because it stopped. And also, I don't know if that's how rain would actually stop. If it was falling so slowly, would it really be that big? Would it really be as scarce or as sparsely there as it was? I don't know even what I'm trying to say. I know it was weird. So it was pretty much there just to help show time, because then it's storming, you see the rain just constantly falling. I think that is the only reason it was there. I don't know. But Yasha and Shiro are pretty much just like, well, we gotta go. We gotta get this. And I guess the time stopping ability really does only come from the Itaden, because I think they have to run the rest of the way there in regular time. Meanwhile, they're doing that. She's finally getting over her loss, I guess. Finally getting to this inside emotional turmoil. Has another little dream, a hallucination, whatever, of seeing her younger self. And then that leads to her little daydream of her mom. And then it kind of just like reminds her like she did like running, and she doesn't like to give up and all this stuff. So another what you think would be a big emotional point, really quick, resolves almost immediately. And she's like, okay, I'm back in action. And she just takes off. I was like, okay, I guess. If we wasn't going to have this big shadowy thing be an antagonist, then I thought there would be at least a big, huge, longer lasting moment. It was still big, a decently big moment for her, but it's not like it was like this huge, profound, like visually stunning moment. It's just like, oh, okay, this was nice. And that's it. It was just nice. She takes off running. But we do at least see that the shadow is still trying to follow her, because she still had those negative emotions, but then she like kind of just ignores it and keeps running. She runs. The storm, the only thing, kind of, I don't know, obstacle if like flips a car over. She just takes a separate path and runs, but it doesn't really affect her that much. She just runs like in a path directly around it. It's not like there was any other obstacle. Her running around didn't cause anything else to like pop out and be any kind of concern. So again, no real point in it. I don't know. But Shiro and Yasha finally get to where they thought the feast was supposed to be. They thought it was over, but they was like, if we can still get this shrine, but then Yasha is hurt. He won't be able to go anymore. Just when they give up, Kana shows back up. And she managed to tie the little amulet up in her hair, so it kind of works a little bit. She can hear him, but she can't see him, and she can't stop time anymore. But she still decides to take this and run it to the shrine instead. And she does. She gets. This is probably the most visually stunning part. The dragon part was really cool, animation wise, and seeing it. But then she gets to the shrine, and it's this huge staircase that goes up into the sky. And that part was actually pretty cool to see. Until you realize, fuck, you gotta run up all these stairs now. It's like, come on. But I guess after running, okay, since time stopped, let's say there was an hour that time wasn't stopped. Maybe an hour or two. Okay, so it's only been a month, maybe a little over a month. But still. But anyways, after that, I guess running upstairs wouldn't even matter at that point. But it was a big set of stairs. And it did look really cool though. But gets in there, seems empty. She's like, oh no, cries a little bit. That, of course, crying always works. And then all the deities show up to get their meal. Cool. And they're like, we're so proud of you for completing this test, blah, blah, blah. And then the rabbit has the gall, the audacity to ask for the matchmaking to be for Kana to be reunited with her mother. But then he's like, nah, she's dead. You can't do that. What are you talking about? Shut the fuck up. No, he was a lot nicer than that. But he's like, yeah, we can't do that. But the real bullshit comes from him being like, the matchmaking, it doesn't work like that. It's not really like, I don't know. When I think of matchmaking, you would think of like people getting together to date or stuff like that. He's like, no, the matchmaking is just tying people's lives together and how they meet along the way. It was pretty much some kind of them wanting to sound all cool and saying it was all about the friends you made along the way. And I'm like, oh, come on, no, that's lame. And that's it. It was pretty much just no, you can't really do that. But then she was like, okay, that's fine. Like, it's okay. It really was about the adventure. I don't see my mom. And it's like, there wasn't any emotional fallout from that either. It's like, okay, I guess she like got over it, or it's okay now. Really, Shiro seemed more upset about it than she was by the end. Yasha also didn't really seem that upset about it either. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't know what happens to those two. Yeah, it just kind of ends. It kind of just like, good job. Sends her back home. I don't really remember what happened to Shiro and Yasha after that. I kind of just get left open. You know what else doesn't get resolved at all? The shadow kept following her, but there's no resolution of that either. What happens after that? It just goes on its way? I don't know. But it turns out it does eventually say, like, it turns out the shadow was like some god imposter that comes from people's negative feelings and emotions and stuff like that, and it was trying to eat the Chiso to become a god. At least we get that explanation. But everything else is just like, okay, you came in your journey, thanks, goodbye. He just like, you can rest here if you want, take as much time as you want. She's like, nah, I just want to go home. Then she goes home, just goes runs. I guess she's over that. She remembers she likes running now, and then that's kind of how it ends. Yeah, this is about as okay of a film as I can. I said that in the beginning, I'm going to say it now. The more I talked about it, I was like, man, it really doesn't it doesn't go deep at all. It's a very shallow film. It's like just it feels like it's all on the surface, and then sometimes it just hits like a little hole where it's like emotion. And then you keep going, just a little bump of emotion every now and then. It's like, well, here's the and the bump, okay, and you feel this, and okay, no, we're good. No, you felt something a little right there, maybe, no, okay, so okay, definitely something for kids. I felt like this is something I would have enjoyed a lot more as a kid, because then you get to see some of the cool gods. You get to see like the bull giving mochi at the beginning. The first one she found, there was like a crane with an egg. There's a bear with what I think is a cake. I don't know if it actually was a cake or not. Then the brief moment it showed it looked like a cake to me. Probably wasn't a cake. Then the dragon gave her a bunch of wheat or barley, something like that. And then the weirdest one was a bush kind of thing. The only one that wasn't like some obvious animal kind of thing. It looked like a bush, just a big leafy bush, and it gives her like some kind of alcohol, some kind of drink. But yeah, definitely just some kind of alcohol. I was like, okay, and I think there was more, but those are the ones that caught my attention, especially the bush one. I was like, okay, cool. Um, but there's a few other things that either get explained from the film or just like something I tagged and took a little note because I thought it was funny. There's a part where Shiro is streaming, and it's like, hang on, I'm about to beat the rabbit. It's like, okay, I get what you're doing there. Haha, tortoise and the hare and stuff for its rabbit and the turtle. Cool. Whatever. Kana, and this goes into the whole name of the movie and name of Kana, which they show everywhere. A lot of stuff to do with her name. But Kana and Kamiari are two different names and meanings for the month of October. There's a scene near the beginning where the teacher kind of explains this, except for Kana is repeating himself just in different ways. But from the gist of what I remember, it was pretty much like in the month of October, depending on the region, October could be Kana, which is the month of no gods, and that's what Kana means, and that's what Kana is kind of named after. Her mom named her Kana, so it'd be like Kana's just gonna be her own person and won't need the power of the gods, even though she's technically a descendant of it. But then there's Kamiari, which is the month of the gods, and that's why it's called Kamiari Month. But it's only really used in Izuno, where the feast is going to be taking place, and that's where the title of the film comes from, Child of Kamiari Month. So, there's just a whole lot of meaning to this that probably made a lot more sense in Japanese than it does in English. It's like, okay, I mean, I get what they're doing. She was born this month, the month of October. October can be called Kana, at least the way they explained it. Or it can be Kamiari. So it's kind of the same thing. But they made the exact opposite thing, depending where you're from. There's a one time where they passed by a river, Kana River, and they made the note that I was like, hey, it's spelled just like me. And I was like, okay, I guess, cool. But then there was no other significance of the river at all besides that. So yeah, there's just a lot of stuff. They try to throw in stuff, but then they didn't really do enough with it to make it significant. It's like, hey, here's something. Here you go. But I mean, I think it is kind of a cool kind of name system, way to do something, a play on words for the name. But it's just, it doesn't really do that much anyways. It's like, I guess the reason for Yayoi to name her daughter that was kind of cool too. But yeah, it was okay. It didn't. A lot of the stuff in this film was just like, okay, well, it didn't matter really that much, but it was nice to see it, I guess. It wasn't bad. Like I said, there's not really anything bad in this. Besides, the thing that annoyed me the most is that she's just terrible at running. So I was all for being like, yeah, you should quit running. I mean, don't quit running. I guess running's good for you. But, yeah, you're not good at it. But maybe that's just because of her mother dying. Maybe she actually is going to be really good at it. But it seems so slow. And then the realization of how long the quest actually took. But even those aren't like bad things. It's just me being picky and just pointing them out and being like, hey, this is kind of weird. But also, it just seems like it'll suck. Talking about like either controlling time or running real fast, which for this it makes it seem it's more like they're running really fast than they're controlling time. But it doesn't really make sense because if they were running really fast, so fast that it seemed like time would slow down, then that means Shiro and Yasha should still be able to keep running fast, and so it seemed time was slow for them, but it didn't. So it definitely is like time slows down more than they're running fast. But still, even that sucks. Even if you did have the power to run really fast, and you see this in other kind of movies where people have this power, it does seem like time slows down for them. But that sucks, doesn't it? Because that just seems like you're going to feel like old and so much time passes. And like in one way, when it's a short burst, yeah, that's cool. You can get a lot of stuff done in a quick amount of time. Seem cool to you. But then overall, if he was going that fast for that long, and then you come back and it's like, oh, it's only been a couple hours, but it's been over a month for you, that's just like life altering kind of deal. It's like, what do? You go back to that. I guess you pretty much could live your whole life just doing that. Oof. I don't know. A week? So, man, I'm trying to think. Let's say a year. I'm going to do some math here, or my calculator's going to do some math. Year, 52 weeks, which would be, 52 weeks would be 52 hours. 52 hours. That's like 2 days. You go a whole year, and then if you was to stop again, it would only have seemed like it's been 2 days. Enough to notice, for other people to notice. But dang, can you imagine living a whole year and just coming back and it's only been a couple days and you're like, and then you do that a lot? No wonder her mom dies. If she was doing this, she was much older than she looks, which I guess is a common thing. Her being part god also doesn't make sense. How can she die from it? Well, this is how she dies from it, and they never really give a clear reason as to why she died, but they did kind of hint at it. The reason she dies is because Kana loses a race. And it's like, it's probably terrible to laugh at this, but the way they set it up, that seems exactly like why she died. Her mom was already kind of getting sick, probably from old age, but since she's a god, she looks young forever. And then, like, her mom's just been staying home at bed, but then Kana has a race, so she goes to watch her daughter, and she loses. And her mom's like, that's okay. But then dies right there, on the spot, right after her daughter loses. I don't know if this was just because it was her memory, this is how it felt to her. It was more exaggerated. But in her dream, or hallucination, whatever it was, she literally just dies right in front of her daughter after she loses. It's like, well, shit, okay. So yeah, her daughter kind of did kill her by losing. Who would have saw that coming? And they gave no other reason as to why she died. So that's what you have to assume, because that's what they tell you. And like, hey, yeah, I guess if as a little kid, because that's what she is, that is the conclusion you would kind of come to if your mom dies right in front of you after losing a race. Oof. So that part, it was kind of silly, kind of dumb. It was supposed to be a sad emotional moment, but I couldn't help thinking of that. A lot of this stuff too. Some of this reminded me of Bridge of Terabithia. I don't know if anyone even remembers, but the whole beginning of that and the kind of relationship between the two main characters is they just liked running, and then one of them died. The girl dies. Yeah, it's a little bit of Richard Terabithia thought in there. I used to like running. I haven't ran in a long time, but yeah, I used to like running. And I'm much faster than I look. I'm not fast, But I am faster than I look. For the size I am, I surprise some people. I also haven't been running in a while, so I don't know how well that's actually going to work if I ever try it again. It'll probably go very poorly. Also, I don't really ever do races either, though. I should. I should do like a 5K or something at some point. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll go around to it. But yeah, that's the story of Child of Kamiari Month. It's on Netflix, only on Netflix as far as I can tell. So if you are interested, I feel like I talked about it, but honestly, I feel like I didn't really talk enough to do it justice. I feel like even with everything I said, you could still watch it and get a completely different experience from me. Especially, it probably doesn't help that I drank so much today, before and during and after. So it might be a completely different experience from it. Maybe it is worth another watch. I don't know. I wouldn't really watch it again. Maybe. Maybe if I happened upon someone that was already watching it, I would probably sit down and watch it with them. It's that kind of film. No, it's something you would decide to watch yourself, but someone else was already watching it. You just sit and watch it with them. Now, let's loop back around to talking about alcohol and what I would have done different now that I know what it's about. I have no idea. Even now, still. Okay, since it's a lot about running, maybe it's some sports drink kind of thing. But I felt like I've talked about that before for one of my podcasts. Like, I thought about doing that, but I can't remember which one it would have been. I'm trying to think back. It's like, which one had them? I don't like drinking, mixing it with some kind of sports drink or something. Oh, I know. It was when I was talking about Haiku. So yeah, something along the same lines as that. Running is a huge thing about this. Any kind of running drink. Maybe because I found something was like a mixed drink that had to do with running or had running in its name. That's probably the drink I would pick. Look for it. Maybe still the dragon. The dragon seems cool, but dragon just seems kind of cliche. Maybe something to do with the gods. I still think, even though I feel like it would be disrespectful to do a drink that had to do with death or mourning or something like that. Probably not. There's plenty of drinks that have like death in the name, but that's not the same kind of tone as this. That's like death. This is kind of just like a loss, a mourning. I mean, technically, I guess the same thing, but just a different tone about it. Something with food. Actually, do feel like this choya is kind of a good drink for it, even now. I mean, because it's all about collecting food and bringing gods, so that's a cool thing. And this has food in it. It has ume. It is I don't know, a sweet, adventurous tasting. Kind of, since it's sweet, it kind of could be like a juice, a refreshing juice, almost like a sports drink or something like that. It's being sweet and juicy. Tastes more like something a child would drink, even though it's alcohol, so a child shouldn't drink it. But yeah, I guess that's the best I can do to try to redeem myself. Either something to do with running or something sports drinky. But I kind of thought about doing something that before. Still doing something with mourning or whatever. And it's disrespectful, or just doing what I picked. I think maybe I was just led to this. I do feel like this is kind of a good choice, but dealing with everything that we did in this movie, because it had to do with fruit and or food, and this is food and alcohol. But yeah, that's just me trying to make myself sound better than I actually am, even though I'm not. But I tried. I tried to bring it back around. All right. I don't know. But yeah, I guess that's going to be it. I'm trying to see if there was anything else that I can remember that there was nothing bad. I can say that, except for the fact that it doesn't seem to resolve things exactly, and there's no huge moments, but there are some cool visually stunning moments with the dragon and the huge staircase going up to the shrine, which I realize you can see in the poster actually, so that kind of gives it away. But yeah, I guess that would be my favorite part, is seeing the dragon in the shrine. And there's not really a least favorite part. It's just a couple of things I'll pick at to say, okay, that was kind of weird. But yeah, if you won't, go watch it on Netflix. It's there. It's only an hour and 40 minutes, so it's not super long, anyways. But it is a wee bit, a tad bit longer than some of the other anime films that I've seen lately. So I'm glad it's at least a little longer than that. I feel like it could have been even longer. If they would have made this a full 2 hour movie, they could have had those big moments. But they're not. They keep cutting it short. I feel like they keep cutting all these movies a little short. I don't know why they want these movies to be less than 2 hours. Why are people so concerned with that? And I think it's because there's something that want to cater more to Western audience, or maybe it's just animation is hard, and I get that. Um, but you see some longer anime films, but I feel like especially this one, it could use going the full 2 hours. It could use those 20 extra minutes. But I get animation's hard, and they want to get this out. It already got delayed once, so I guess they're just doing what they can. I don't know. I would have added more time to when the God imposter was trying to trick him, and then even that whole sequence, all the way from the God imposter finally tricking her, all the way through her like pulling off the bracelet, and then having her little realization, and then get back into it. All that should have been much longer. That should have been bigger, fancier, or flashier, more flashier and darker. But no. Also, it might have been shorter just to keep the attention span of kids. But then I feel like that was the case, it would be even shorter than it was. So, I don't know. But I'll say this for pretty much every film. Every film could be longer. I don't know if I'll ever be happy with it. They might have made it 2 hours, and I still would complain that it was too short. Maybe that's just me wanting more. But, I don't know. That's all I'm going to say about it for now. Before I just keep rambling on. Because that could be a whole different topic. And that a whole different episode of this podcast. It's me just talking about how I wish everything was longer. But, whatever. That's it for me talking about Child of Kamiari Month. And that's it for this episode of Alcohol and Anime. Thank you so much to everyone that listened. Wherever you're listening on. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, whatever you can do on whatever app or whatever you're listening on. Go ahead and do it if you want. If you like it and stuff, show that likeness. Yeah. But yeah. Until next time, I'm the AC. Bye.